I'll get underway then, if I may, because like I say, I don't know if this is going to cut us off after 40 minutes. I think there are about 24 images or something in total, including the top 5 to get through. My plan was to show them, it's slightly different to last week, but if I bring it up a minute, you're bound to see the first one because I can't open it up after I start sharing the screen. I have to open the first image and then start sharing the screen. So I'll bring this up a moment and start sharing. If I can find it, here we go. And I'll share that. Share. So you should see it coming up now, hopefully.
Yeah.
Yep. Can you all see that?
Yeah.
Okay. Yep. And my plan was that if I show them in this format, so the only difference we get in full screen is we get a black background, which might look better. But in this format, I can sort of give some constructive bits and pieces like this.
Okay.
Oh, you've been practicing.
If you're happy. So if I go through them in this format, and if that works, we'll keep it like that. It also means I get the name, the file name in the top corner. And then just out of shot, I've got another screen, which with a PDF on it that Ian's prepared for me with the names of the people against the file names. So I know whose shot they are then. So
Ian's clever.
Because I don't know that looking at the names, not everybody is online who has a picture in the competition. So it's not a case of me going around asking whose it is, because I won't get a response. So the competition title of the season of spring, these are the ones outside of the top 5, and they're in a random order, so they'll just come up in any order. So here we're presented with the image of a flower. As you can see, I can't tell what flower it is, as you know.
Marigold.
Oh, is it? Okay, thank you, sir. Yeah. And we've got it presented in a portrait orientation, which I think obviously the photographer's done that because it's leading in from this bottom corner, and then it gives a chance to put what looks like the center of the flower on the bottom third of the image. That's given the photographer a chance to include some of the background, shallow depth of field. You get to see some of the setting that the flower is in. We've got a very warm color generally to the image. It's got a warm tone to it, possibly more early morning or evening light. And that general tone in the background does give a complementary sort of tone to the flower. Although it does make the flower look really, really orange, then it does make it look really warm in color. I don't know if that is how they would look, if that's a true representation, or whether there's a little bit of artistic flair there with that boosting of the warm tones. But the shallow depth of field has given some separation to the background. We can see the point of focus is down here in the center of the flower. Not knowing flowers, I don't know if this is a spring flower. I'm guessing that it is, on theme if these generally come out in spring. But we do have a little bit of a distraction just here. It's a very soft white bright highlight in an odd sort of zigzag shape. And it is on a diagonal with the flower, so it does tend to pull your eye towards that corner quite often. But apart from that, I mean, it works. Again, let's say if it's on theme, if that is a spring flower, then it's on theme. I do like the separation with the background, with the shallow depth of field. It might have worked better as a square crop, because that would have given you a crop somewhere around here-ish. And then you crop out that distraction, and it just keeps your eye more on the flower. But that image, the photographer is, excuse me, looking off screen, Dave Henderson, that one. So are you marking down points, Ian, for still,
It's
are we still running it the same way as
already
before?
done. Already
Yeah,
done.
okay.
Yeah.
Oh, you've already done that. Of course you have. Yeah, okay, because you had a chance to see them. Yeah, of course. Okay. So that's the first one. This is your next one. So we've got very, very strong silhouette of this tree line. Late evening shot, sun's gone down, you know, late sunset. We've got the moon, a young moon here, with Venus just off of it, just to the right of it, and then this overhanging tree here. Again, we're thinking about the theme of spring. I would say this picture was taken around the end of March, looking at the moon and the location of Venus. But you can tell that we're into the flowering season because these trees look like, you know, they look full of leaf. So they look like, it doesn't look like a winter scene. Okay, it may be hard to tell if it's summer or not, but it does generally have that sort of spring feel to it. I do like that really strong silhouette. You get lots and lots of detail in there, good depth of field. And I think this overhanging branch in the top corner, I feel is absolutely key. It does help to give some interest. It looks closer to the camera than the rest because it's such a dark silhouette. You don't get a real sense of depth into the image. And this overhanging branch at the top does start to give you the impression that something is more in the foreground, closer to the camera than everything else. It's larger, it's more detailed. And so that helps to provide, I think, some depth to the image. If it wasn't there, it would really be an image of two halves. You would just have the sky at the top and this dark silhouette at the bottom. So I think that's worked really well. Some lovely colour in the sky. The moon does look a little small. It's always going to be, I guess, because you know, it's using a wide-angle lens to make the most of these surroundings. But I'm just not sure if this bottom bit isn't maybe just a little bit too much, and maybe it could have been cropped in a little bit, which gives you more of these elements. You still get the overhanging branch, and you still get then the foreground. I don't know, it's just an opinion, it's only a slight crop, but there is quite a lot of negative space down here. It's quite a thick border of black, you know, at the bottom. When I guess my eye is really drawn to this tree line and the light that is in between those branches. So just maybe something to think about. But that one is Chris P. That is yours, isn't it, Chris? Yeah?
I submitted 2 images and they're both taken by phone camera.
Okay.
Because I was obviously seen the shot and just took it. But like, I agree obviously with everything you said, but I do think could have cropped it. I haven't edited these pictures at all, so
No,
they
right,
are
sure.
as they are.
Yeah, so being a phone, obviously
so yeah,
a small
just pretty...
sensor, small sensor, small lens, you get a lot of depth of field with the phone, hence, and it's really, really sharp. So you didn't have any problems with, oh, sorry, I've just got a message come up at the waiting room. So, yeah, you didn't have any hand-holding issues then? I take it that was handheld?
Yeah, it was one shot, just took it. I thought, you know, that's a good moon and planet kind of picture.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd be interested to know. I reckon that's around the 28th of March, but I'd be interested to know quite when, you know. But that looks.
I don't know if Ian can tell you with the file information or not.
Oh yeah, maybe.
I haven't got it to hand, no.
Oh no, sure. But no, that's good. It's surprising the quality you can get from a phone these days, isn't it?
Are you going away?
Yeah, it's not a special phone or anything. It's just a Samsung S7, so it's not even very up to date. But
right, sure.
Yeah.
Okay, brilliant. So
happy to move on.
Yep, thank you. So this is the next one. So this dandelion. which again, I guess because it's the theme of spring, and we generally think of that as being a time when everything starts to sort of come back to life after the winter. This very colourful dandelion plays into that. We've got the yellows, the warm colours, filling the frame as well. So that's often an advantage, to try and fill the frame as much as you can with the subject. It does leave nothing open to interpretation as to what the photograph might be about. You know, you're not having to guess between 2 or 3 different elements what the subject is. So that really helps. We do get to see a little bit of the background out of focus. That green sort of complements quite well as a canvas for the yellow to really stand out on. It looks nice and sharp. We've got a shallow depth of field. Some of these leaves at the back are going out of focus already, back here and back here. But everything else, you know, everything around here, around the sort of central point where your eye is drawn, is really, really in focus, really sharp. And yeah, wonderful colour. This one was submitted by Jason.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, confirm that, Chase. Yeah. So, did you use a macro lens or something for this?
Quite possibly. I can't remember off the top of my head, but I believe I did.
Okay.
I was out shooting some bugs and things around the house a few times, so it quite possibly was the 100mm.
Yeah, you certainly got a lot of detail in there. But yeah, that one's come out really well. So, I'll take a guess, a wild guess at a fuchsia. For the
You'd be wrong.
Okay, what would it be?
It's a raspberry bush, I think.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Not as in raspberries, but
right.
as in raspberry bush. Well, that's what it's called, I think.
So raspberry bush and the bee, and a very, very shallow, very muted background, which really makes that bee stand out. Not only the fact that that bee is on the third, and the fact that it's a completely different color to the flower that it's on, it really stands out against the background. We've got enough depth of field in the bee that both wings look in focus, and some wonderful reflection off those wings. Nothing glaring, but the reflection and the tone that's in those wings has brought out all of the detail as well. And I love the way that you can see through the front wing here to the body of the bee. It's sort of one of those action shots, you know, where the bee is actively working on the plant.
Yeah, I've lost my meeting. What?
And
Why?
we've got really sharp focus on the subject. Your eyes drawn in, and the fact that the bee is then sort of going into the plant, so your eye is working from right to left into this plant really works well. Yeah, I really like it. I would imagine that was really tricky to get the depth of field enough to get all of that bee in focus. But yeah, really, really nailed it. And perfect positioning. So I would imagine it was maybe a slightly larger crop to start with in the camera, and then cropped in post to put that bee exactly in that position. But I'd be interested to know that. But this one is Ian's picture.
Yeah.
Yep. So was it slightly wider when you took the shot?
No, not particularly. It was.
Okay.
That was a lockdown shot. That was when I was going to stir crazy, and I went out into the garden with the camera, manual focus on the macro lens. Took loads, and I think I got one that was sharp.
Okay. Yeah.
Because it was the middle of the day, and they were just so active. I just got lucky, to be honest.
Because you've got the bee moving, you might have the plant moving if it's any sort of breeze. You've got your movement. There's a lot to compete with and contend with, isn't there, to get a sharp shot, as well as trying to have enough depth of field as well. So it's easy with the macro lens to have the aperture too open to let in enough light, but then to be limited on depth of field and get part of it out of focus just through a lack of depth of field. Yeah, but that's worked out really well. And I like the fact that you can see the bee, all the parts of the bee, the head, the body, the tail end of it. Yeah, awesome. Okay. Okay, so poppies in the field. Got a 3, and they are obviously completely in contrast to the other colours around. So we've often talked about colour and the power of colour to draw the eye, and red obviously is one of the most powerful colours which draws your eye in, and finding that 3 in the field like that is really well seen. Nice high horizon. We've got a blank sky, there's not a lot going on there. Probably wouldn't add anything to the image, so keeping that to a minimum is good. Keeping the horizon up really high, and then these 3 in the foreground. Good depth of field. Just got a message come up. Someone in the waiting room, and so yeah, I think that's worked out really well. And it's a good complement of colours as well. Strong colours. It's nice and sharp. I would imagine it was a fairly still day. Sorry, someone else in the waiting room. Dave's just coming in. Dave Henson. So yeah, let me just see who that one belongs to.
Fine.
That's Ken's. Yes, Ken. Yeah.
Yep.
Did you want to add anything to that, Ken?
Not really. It's just taken up at the fields, you know, a while ago. It was actually taken before all the poppies come out. There was loads of. There was only a few up there.
Okay. Yeah.
We just went up there.
I've seen a couple in the last week or so, but I don't know how early the poppies would normally come out. But there are a few.
Spring.
There are a few. Yeah, indeed. But there are a few still out now. You know, even though we're now into summer. But
yeah, but they've died back a bit now.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And when we say spring, obviously that can be either astronomical spring or meteorological spring. You know, the two are fairly close together. Okay, so let's go on to the next one. Okay. So, a couple of dogs in the garden, it looks like, although it looks like a fairly wildflower garden, maybe. Lots of strong colour, lots of punchy greens, blues. We've got a lead in from this bottom corner, which sort of draws your eye in to this dog here, looking straight at the camera. We've then got obviously the white dog here, nice and bright, stands out. Your eye is drawn in there as well, but also because of this lighter area here, my eye is drawn right through here as well, with that sort of implied lead through the image, which I think works really well. We've got good focus. Everything looks sharp. It could be presented in multiple ways, because obviously you could crop it and have a landscape crop in here as well. But I think because the dogs aren't the subject, they're not the title of the topic for this particular month, and it is all about spring. I think including all of this foreground content really works. The dogs just sort of add a complementary view for your eye to wander to. The only thing I wasn't sure about this image was it all looks a little bit blue back here. I'm not sure if this is, maybe it's quite a blue sky above, and maybe some of that has been reflected here in this greenery. I just wondered, it just looked sort of slightly off colour, but maybe the colours have been punched up a little in post-production, and maybe that's affected this bit at the top. You know, there might be a bit of
I think
stray light
when you try and lift the shadows as well, that can happen.
Ah, okay. Yeah. And this could be quite shadowy, couldn't it? Because it could be in the sun could be behind these trees, maybe. But this one belongs to John Marshall. I don't think John's online at the minute. So I can't really ask him about that. But yeah, another good image for spring. Let's go on to the next one. Right, blimey, look at that. They say that the success of an image can be down to the timing and the capture and the peak of the action. I mean, that looks unbelievable. The fact that that bird is looking right at that insect and the beak is open, just ready to catch it. You can almost picture in your mind the next stage, can't you, as the bird sort of lurches forward to grab that fly or whatever it is there. Sorry, Hazel looks like she's about to join us. I'll just hit OK to that one a moment. Sorry, another message come up. So, so we've got the image of a, I'm guessing that's a robin on a branch or a pole of some sort. Perhaps I can't really tell from here, but and a very muted neutral background, which helps to make the robin stand out, because we've got the light running out of time. It says it'll end in 10 minutes. Yeah, so we are limited, so I'll go as quick as I can. So we've got the light coming in from camera right, highlighting the bird, which gives the separation to the background. That works out really well. It's also sort of highlighted parts of the fly, which sort of makes that stand out as well. Quite a noisy image. We do have a lot of noise. I don't know if that's coming out on your screen as well. That could be because it might be a heavy crop. It could be a high ISO image because it does look pretty dark in the background. But the bird on the third, but it's all about the interaction of the bird and that fly. I mean, that's just incredible. Let me just see. That's that's Chris Spence. Yep.
Yeah, it was quite dark where I took it, and I was on the long lens, so the ISO really packed up. So it really, yeah, I think we're about 3,200 or something. Right. So that's why it's a bit noisy in the background. But at the end of the day, you've just got to get the shot, haven't you?
Oh, you have, for sure. Absolutely.
Even the fly's feet, even the fly's feet a little.
Yeah, absolutely. The noise doesn't bother me, to be honest. You know, it's better to, like you say, to have a sharp shot, a noisy sharp shot, than a blurred, perfectly non-grainy shot. But yeah, absolutely. That's just incredible. That.
Do you know how to tell it's on theme?
Well,
no. The fly is called a St. Mark's fly, and they come out on, I can't remember the date, but they come out on over a couple of days in, I think it's either, is it March or April time?
Ah, okay.
So it's on theme.
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you, Ian.
I wouldn't have known that, to be honest. I was looking at the bird's plumage and the. I know robins
you get like out on the coast paths and that, you get like a, you know, these particular flies, St. Mark's flies, you get loads of them, and they literally come out over a couple of days.
They look quite big in comparison to the bird as well. I know it's not a big bird, but that looks quite big, that fly. But yeah,
it's going to make a tasty meal.
Yeah.
Did he get it though?
Yes, it did.
Where's the photographic proof?
Yeah. Did you have it in burst mode and get those shots as well?
I did, yeah.
Okay. So the next one, hopefully we'll get this one done. So we've got a picture of a partridge, I guess that is. You can tell I'm, you know, not exactly David Attenborough. Against this sort of in a garden or somewhere like that. It's in a, you know, not in the wildest of the wild, I'm guessing, because of this grass in the foreground. Looks fairly kept. So perhaps in someone's garden. We've got it's set against this bush in the background, which has some browns in it, which kind of matches the colours that are in the bird. Quite a lot of dead space in the foreground. I can see perhaps some of the reasons why it's been presented this way, because obviously the photographer didn't want to cut the tail of the bird off. But because the bird is back in the scene, close to the bush in the background, everything's in focus. You haven't got that chance of getting any sort of out of focus areas because it's all quite far from the camera. Again, spring, I don't know whether those partridges are out in spring and whether that's when you would expect to see them. possibly is. But I think it could have been cropped into a landscape format, perhaps, just to cut down on the amount of bits and pieces that don't really add too much to the image, and that would have also then allowed for, if the partridge is the subject, it would have allowed for it to be in a
Pheasant.
Pheasant, sorry, pheasant. So it allowed it to have been a little bit bigger. It is losing focus though at that, at that sort of resolution. So maybe a square crop or something like that, and try and. And the other thing I would have done perhaps to this one is just to boost the contrast a little. It's just looking a little bit washed out. Dehaze is often a tool that can be used to improve the contrast, or even just the contrast slider. This one belongs to Barbara Cooper.
Oh, she took it on her phone.
Ah, did she? Okay.
Yeah.
And maybe through glass, because that.
I don't know.
No, because sometimes glass can have that effect of washing stuff out. If you get
I wondered that.
It can sort of wash it out a bit. So she might be isolating, she might be shielding or whatever, and taking it through the glass perhaps. But
that's actually her garden.
Ah, okay, yeah, sure.
So she asked me if she could send it.
Yeah.
Because she took it on her phone.
But also, you see, if there is a layer of glass there, that might also contribute to the softness.
Yeah.
As well. Okay, so we'll get another one done. I think we can get another one in. So I haven't had another warning
4
yet.
minutes left.
System. How many?
4 minutes.
4. Okay, thank you. So some bluebells, which obviously are associated with spring. So I think it's bang on theme. Quite a difficult thing to photograph to represent the colour as accurately as they actually are. But this is looking pretty good to the eyes, looking pretty good on this screen. You can see we've got a bit of a lead in from the right and a little bit of space at the top as the stem arcs over. And then you've got the bluebells hanging down. Just enough depth of field to see some in the background. You can tell what they are, but they're soft, so it helps this one stand out against its background, which I think works really well. And obviously these white, are they snowdrops or something, the white ones? But they
still bluebells, but white ones.
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So so they help as well to sort of just complement the main subject. Again, because we use focus to draw the viewer's eye to the part of the photograph that we want the viewer to look at. Focus is a compositional tool to tell the viewer what it is that the subject is of the picture. By having just that in focus, you can be in no doubt as to the subject matter in this picture. So this one,
I think it's a lovely photograph, whoever it is.
Yeah, Brian Pierce. Is that right, Brian?
Yeah, that's mine.
Yeah,
I liked it
Lovely,
too.
Brian.
Yeah.
Oh,
Really nice. That really spring-like.
I like the fact that you had these 3 different colours of bluebell all there together. You got the blue ones, white ones, and the sort of pinky ones.
Excellent.
Yeah, you got these slightly pink ones back here. Yeah, really nice. And really that low angle really gives a different perspective on them, doesn't it? You sort of shoot.
How long did it take you to get back up, Brian?
A long time.
Yeah. Okay, I'll try the next one. I don't know if we'll finish it, but we'll try it.
At least 14 images for the next 40 minutes, Darren, by the way.
How many have we done?
Well, this is number 10, so I'll leave you 14 to do in the next session.
Yeah. So we haven't got the introductions to it in the next bit. Once everyone's back online, I'll just crack straight on with it. Okay, so bird on a branch, lots of lichen and things on the branch, which adds a lot of detail to this particular branch. Very, very shallow depth of field. Really complementary background. The background really seems to complement the colours that are in the bird, but the bird is absolutely pin sharp with something in its mouth. So we mentioned this with Chris's shot, that if you can get something else in the shot, it does add to the story, it adds to the narrative. So that really works. Loving all the texture in this branch. again, in complete contrast to the smooth feathers and the plumage of the bird. That really works well. The only thing I think could have been done slightly differently in this one is the crop. I would perhaps have liked to have seen more space in front of the bird than behind. It's the bird's facing into the shot, but out of the shot, if you see what I mean, because he's closer to the, or she is closer to the left-hand edge of the frame than the right-hand edge.
Or a square crop.
Yeah, square crop, absolutely. So yeah, you might have been able to get away with something slightly more square, but you know, if the bird is over that way more, I think it would have worked slightly better. But awesome detail, great depth of field, great use of depth of field, and wonderful colour.
You're going to go any minute, I think.
Yeah, catch light in the eye. So this one belongs to
Sue Fleming.
Sue Fleming. Yeah.
Is it spring?
No, it says winter to me.
I don't know. So I believe robins are around all year, but their red plumage is more noticeable in the winter because of the. Sorry that ended so abruptly. I didn't realise that it would just end. I thought I might get a message, 30 seconds to go or something, and count me down, but it didn't. It just.
You're muted or something.
Oh, your sound's gone down.
Can you hear now?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right, 1 second. Let me just switch back to them. Can you hear now?
Gonna get.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry about that. Yeah, technical issue with the microphone. Sorry. Yeah, I didn't realise. I scheduled the meeting for 7, thinking that was when the timer would start, and it didn't. It started when I actually started the meeting, so we got kicked off 3 minutes early. So I'll pick up the pace a little bit for this next session. And
we do see a timer. We do.
Sorry.
We do see a timer in the last 7 or 8 minutes. So.
Well, you see a timer.
Yes.
Yeah, it came up on the screen.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't get to see that, unfortunately.
There's an option to switch it on somewhere.
But also, I've scheduled a third meeting for 8:45, just in case we get cut off. Ian's got the details, so if we need to, we'll send out another one anyway, just to then finish off. So we definitely won't miss the top 5 or anything. All right. And I'll have to then look at getting a subscription to this service. I'll try and look into that this week. I can set it up on my account, and then we'll work out the finances later on. Okay, so I'll go back to. I'll just launch where we were on the pictures, and then we will share the screen. 1 second, it's just coming up. So if I share that, okay, can you see that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. So that's where we were with. I think that was Sue's, wasn't it? Yeah, Sue Fleming. Okay. And I think we were working out whether that was spring or not, but I think this lichen mainly comes out around spring, doesn't it? You don't see a lot of this in the winter, so maybe that's how you tell that's spring. But I take your point, Ian, it might be difficult to tell that this is on theme from the subject. Okay, so this is the next one. I'm guessing this is a spring flower. I don't know what type of flower that is. But we've got a single flower in focus set against a very out of focus background. You can see that the background contains similar flowers, but very, very soft, quite bright. And again, if this is a spring flower, then that would make it on theme. But I don't know, to be honest with you. As you know, I'm not the greatest on flowers. I alluded to the fact earlier in an image that as photographers, we tend to use focus as a compositional element to tell the viewer which part of the picture is the most important, which part of the picture is the subject. And so here we've got this one flower in focus in the foreground. kind of on the third. I would say that's pretty much on the third sort of PowerPoint, if you imagine a grid on here. But it does occupy a very, very small part of the frame when you consider the overall amount of content. And so it may well have been presented better if it was larger in the frame. We do have an element down here, which I'm not really sure adds an awful lot to the image. We've got this bright, what looks like a wall or something perhaps down here. And we've also got some very bright areas up here, which do tend to pull your eye up away from the subject, which is down, obviously, this point down here.
Surely if the wall wasn't there, it'd just be coming out of nowhere.
Well, yeah, there is that. Yeah, I mean, we do have these similar flowers here, which do sort of complement it and give you some grounding. So, but then you could crop it like this. You would still keep that element there, but we lose now some of these bright elements in the background, which I don't know add an awful lot to the image. And if it is about spring flowers, and if this is spring, I think a composition like that may have made it a stronger image. It pulls your eye into the subject, because we're saying that this is the subject here. So it pulls your eye into this area here, if this is the framing, just here. And you know, when you look now at what's in the box and what's outside the box, I don't know that this adds an awful lot. And so if it doesn't add, then there is cause to say that you could perhaps do without it. And
I'm assuming the reflection is like a boat or something, and giving you where it is.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. It's only an opinion. It's only a point of view. But you know, so this one belongs to Sue Watts.
Yeah, it is a boat. It's on the edge of the Ross Bridge. It's a plant growing out of the wall. Right. It was the one I was doing on my walks in lockdown back in April or March. I took it. Yeah. It is only a phone shot, but I just really like the colour, the pink flower, and the water was very still, and it just looked really, it sort of popped with the blue.
Yeah, absolutely. And the blue does really help with the colours of the subject, for sure.
And obviously that element of the wall, that's very hard to get rid of it without losing half of, you know what I mean? I did contemplate cropping out the wall, but then I thought I might lose, you know, sort of the feel of the picture. And I actually quite like the blurriness of the background, but I appreciate what you were saying, that that's the focus and the rest of it is quite blurry. But
I certainly don't mind the wall so much as those bright elements back there. If it was important to have the boats as context, then yes, you would definitely try and include them and maybe have them a little sharper. But for spring, it maybe could be presented like that as a slightly stronger composition, perhaps. But you know, it's all subjective. But yeah, I certainly like the way it's in a portrait orientation, as the subject is quite long as well. It's quite an upright sort of subject. So this is the next one, a 3 again. These foxgloves, presented on a bright day with a limited amount of sky. So the photographer has done well to get down fairly low and try and minimise the amount of sky. Again, there's not a lot of interest in the sky, and then gives the chance to use this tree in the background as framing, to add, fill up the sky, if you like, and sort of give you a more neutral background, a more interesting background. We've got some good colour, good sharpness and depth of field. If I zoom in, you can see it's really sharp. Some awesome detail within the flowers. And because, again, the subject is tall and thin, presenting it in this format sort of mirrors that upright shape of the subject. The slight issue with this one, I guess, is that because there's so much depth of field, the subject is kind of lost in the background. Everything is sort of merging in together, and it can be a bit more difficult to pick these out, especially up here when it's more green and less of these pink buds. These greens here tend to start merging in. I know I'm looking at a fairly small screen, but you can see how these are almost becoming camouflaged in amongst the greenery in the background. Not a lot you can do about that, I guess, unless you work in the crop you know, and you try and crop it like this so you make more of the foreground and crop out, don't have all of the plant perhaps. Difficult to get a limited amount of depth of field here because they look like they're close to the background. But certainly on theme for spring, in my opinion. And this one is Dave. Do you want to add anything to that, Dave?
No, that's about it really. Taking on one of my walks around the village and we just seem to be overrun with foxgloves in the hedgerows. So
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it because of the lighting, you can tell you've got a blue sky there, sunny day. The lighting is going to be fairly harsh, so you have to pick an aperture that's going to help with that. That gives you a lot of depth of field. It's really difficult to do a lot with it, I guess, at that time of day, isn't it?
Yeah.
We don't have a lot of shadows in the image, so I guess it was. Well, I suppose there is. It does look like the light's coming from camera right.
Yeah, I think it's probably about 4 o'clock.
4 o'clock, yeah. So it's still fairly high in the sky. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. No, thank you. Okay, so I guess that's a blue tit. I think maybe on this
great tit.
Very great tit. Sorry. Okay. Thank you. On this very textured log or post, some wonderful detail with the texture in that post and the barbed wire, and then whatever this object is here with the bird on there. Neutral background, great the way that the subject is popping off the background, and as I say, lots of detail. With this time the bird to the right hand side looking into the scene, I think is a better composition than the bird we saw just now that was more towards the left and that the space was behind the bird. Here I think the space is all in front of the bird, which I think works really well. Bright background, which then has tended to make the subject look a little bit underexposed. It all looks just a little bit dark in the foreground here, which is a shame. I also think that if the subject is spring and that really means that is a spring bird, then I do also think that you could crop this in to make more of the bird. You know, is the log that's more important than the bird, or the bird that's more important than the log? The post.
And the trouble is, though, you've got all those twigs there that you've zoomed in on. They all look dead. So if it's spring, why are they? It looks more like an autumn or winter shot, doesn't it? And even if you look at the quality of the light in the background, that's just my opinion. I don't. I mean, it's a lovely photo, but I just don't see spring.
No.
If you didn't have the log there, you wouldn't get the bird there because they would have nothing to sit on.
No, I know, but it doesn't say spring, does it? It just it's a great shot, but
no, it's barbed wire.
Yeah, I don't know what these twigs are. These verticals, I don't know.
Dead,
but they do look dead. But do you see what I mean about the crop? So by getting right in close, you certainly make a lot more of the bird. When you look at that and you let your eyes settle on that, when you then go back to this one, the bird is completely outweighed by the post. And do you need the bottom of the post? You know, do you need these horizontals at the bottom? I think with a tweaking camera raw and adding some light to the foreground and then presenting it a bit more like that, so you still get to the top, you still get this rugged top edge, you still get a bit of the bottom here, but you get the bird much more prominent in the frame, I think would make a stronger composition.
I think that light in the background though as well, which I think is gorgeous, but it does look like that late evening winter sort of light. There is a quality to that light, isn't there? If you know what I mean. You can tell the difference of it. Yeah,
I quite like the warm tone to it, but as you say, it does.
Oh, it's beautiful light, but it looks like that time of year. You know, where
it does.
You know, you get a crispness in the air, and you get a certain tone to the light, don't you?
You do, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So this one is Sue Fleming. Yeah, Sue's not online at the minute. I don't think she's, so we can't ask.
Yeah, that's the only reason I'll slagging it off.
Oh, okay. Careful, it's being recorded, mind. So this is the next one. This I thought, just as that's come up, then I thought that was wonderful. The amount of detail in there is incredible. I'll take a guess at a house sparrow or something, perhaps.
Stone chat.
Oh, you should let
Female
James
stone
say
chat.
that.
Female
Sorry,
stone chat.
Ah, okay. But amazing amount of detail. Catch light in the eye on this thorn, which again, it's difficult to tell the season, I guess, from the shot. Not knowing about the bird, whether that is a spring bird, you know, that might say spring to a lot of people in the know. But wonderful tone and texture in the background. You know, as a photograph, just incredible. Really like the composition. Yeah, I have seen a similar shot in the past done by David Chapman, and I don't know that it was any better than that shot, you know, to be honest with you. Yeah, brilliant. Really, really sharp. Love the fact that the beak is open, and I mentioned this in an earlier shot, that having some sort of action like that just makes more than just a bird on a branch. You know,
It just swallowed one of those flies.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, what were those flies called?
Cheers, Ken.
Flies on feet, man.
Yeah. Can't remember what those flies were called now.
Ask Ian.
Yeah, Ian on it.
Marks.
Marks flies.
Marks.
Right. Yeah. But yeah, awesome. Really, really like that. Good depth of field. You know, enough depth of field to keep the bird sharp, but I guess that background is way away, and it's just gone way out of focus and really complements the bird. So this one belongs to Chris. Chris S. Yep. All right, Chris. Yeah. Do you want us to add any more to that? Is this a back garden shot or?
No, I'm only allowed in the farmer's field at the back.
Right.
So it was in the farmer's field.
Brilliant. No, really, really good. Really well seen. On a tripod, I guess. Long lens.
Handheld.
No.
Long lens. Handheld long lens on a crop sensor.
Awesome.
As a previous member used to say, tripods are for wussies.
Yeah, right, absolutely. Yeah, we'll have to call you Steady Hand Chris from now on, I think.
Hey.
Yeah.
That's great. Okay, so this is the next one. Okay. I'm just wondering whether that's presented the right way up. I might have spun that 90 degrees anti-clockwise. So that this edge was the bottom. If I put my okay, but I'm not sure. Okay, so that's the way it's presented in the set of images. So we'll go with that.
Can you up the top there? You can flip it, can you? Or no?
Yeah, I can. Yeah, absolutely. But I'm not sure which way it should have been presented. I would have presented it. Oops, sorry, my mouse clicked twice. Then just do it once more. There, I would have probably, that looks more natural to my eye that way up, because when we use lead-in lines, the lead-in lines should lead somewhere. Okay, I know that sounds pretty an obvious statement to make, but they don't always. And to my mind, having this way up, this very strong lead-in line takes my eye up into those trees and up into this bright area. When it was this way up, my eye isn't drawn to the side and into the scene in the same way. My eye is drawn down here to this bright area, and I'm struggling to get up into the image. I don't know if that makes sense, but shooting up like this, we've got a lack of contrast because we are now shooting up into a bright sky. It has tended to lower the contrast a little. And that may be the photographer's aim, you know, with this shot, to provide that difference in contrast between the background and the foreground sort of lichen here. We have got a lot of leaf in the tree, so it's definitely not winter. I don't know, I can't pick out the bit that makes it spring as such, you know, to make it a really strong spring theme, if you like. But let's have a look. 19 is Chris P. Another phone shot, Chris.
Yeah, out dogging. Just had.
You don't want to say that.
Too much information.
Which way up is it supposed to be? That way?
It was the vision I had at the time.
What, this one? Lying on your back again.
Dogging.
Were you waiting for somebody then? Yeah. Yeah.
Blushing, and there's nobody else in the house.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. It was just like I said, like a quick shot. And it wasn't until like last week's Zoom meetings that I thought I had the opportunity to submit something. So it wasn't purposely taken. I had other spring ideas, but they weren't as interesting. And
Okay.
yeah, it doesn't shout spring, but it was taken in it like late. But
it's an interesting
angle. Happy to learn from everything that everyone says. Anyway, so.
I think it's a good thing to point your camera up like that, because it's not an angle that a lot of people would take. You sometimes see this sort of effect done with a blurring effect, so moving the camera whilst you're taking the shot, and you get swirls and things, and that sort of thing. But difficult to do with a phone. So, but no, it's certainly an interesting angle. Interesting topic for conversation. So, yeah, nice one. Better be out there taking than not taking. So, so the next one, back onto the bluebell theme. So the bluebells here, obviously we've not gone in close with this one, so it's back further, giving a more of a view of the surroundings that the bluebells are in, as well as the bluebells, which helps to put them in their setting, but doesn't give the chance to get some out of focus areas, or indeed isolate your subject through depth of field. But we have got some areas to help with the framing. So we've got these little branches coming in here, and these ones here, and down here. So you can see that the photographer is trying to use some of the foreground to then push the subject back into the frame a little. It helps to add some depth to the image. We do, unfortunately, though, then end up with this bright stick in the foreground, which tends to pull the eye a little. But we've got some good color again. We've got some, it's all sharp, but it's maybe not as strong an image as it could be if some shallow depth of field perhaps was used, or an unusual angle maybe for this one. Yeah, I think that it perhaps needs a little bit something to make it a little bit of a stronger composition image. But this one, let me have a look. So this again is Barbara Cooper. So I imagine maybe taken with their phone, Brian?
Yes, it would have been.
Yeah. So, the thing is, the thing about shooting with a phone is that it's so portable that you could perhaps put it down really low and shoot even up into these, just to get something really unusual, sort of the worm's eye view sort of thing. But it's something to work on in the future, perhaps. So I'll go on to the next one. Okay. So some seed pods of some sort. I'm not quite sure exactly what, maybe. But we've got a 3 in the foreground with some out of focus. There's 4 out of focus ones there, slightly further back. So I imagine the photographer has been attracted by the 3. Shallow depth of field again. We can see the subjects that are in the background. We can tell what they are. It's not so out of focus that we can't tell. And they do help to complement the 3 in the foreground. Good exposure, nice and sharp, some good color. And I guess it does sort of say spring to me. It says that things are starting to flower, things are starting to come out and grow again. And I like the square crop. So we've talked many times about excluding things which don't add to add anything to the subject. And I think the photographer here has done that. There's maybe some stuff above it that's been cropped out. So choosing that square crop, I think, has worked really well. frames the subject nicely, and having them sort of all leaning into the frame, I think works well as well. Let me just see. So that's Brian Pierce.
Yeah, it's plantain, flowering plantain.
Ah, okay. Right.
It was taken on my walk through the cemetery.
Walk through the cemetery, sorry, did you say?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah,
There's an awful lot of it this year.
Yeah. Yeah, and so the cemetery's in the background, so hence cropped out to.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of crap in the background, so
right, yeah,
cropped it square to cut it
but
out.
that crop really brings your eye into the subject, doesn't it? You know, again, with this shot, you can be as in no doubt as to what the subject is. You know, and that's something which I would encourage everyone to think about when they start to crop. So, yeah, no, that's really good. Okay, so here's a slightly different take on the foxglove thing, which, you know, we saw some foxgloves earlier, and I said that possibly one of the things you could do to make them stand out is to crop in, and so that's been done here. We've got the portrait orientation, which helps to match the elongated petals of this plant. Shallow depth of field. I quite like the background is out of focus, but in focus enough. It just complements the foreground subject. We've got some interesting light and shadow on the foreground subject as well. Just playing onto those petals, giving some texture, giving some detail, giving some different tones. Quite a simple composition, but really effective. And again, makes you think of spring, perhaps because of the subject matter. This one is Sue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was another phone shot at the garden. The only thing that really annoyed me, which I didn't have time and couldn't seem to edit out, was that the white blob.
Yeah, just here.
In the leaves, yeah.
Yeah.
And it was really annoying me, and I tried to I'm rubbish at Photoshop, and I was trying to get rid of it, and in the end I thought I'll just leave it.
Yeah. So it wasn't something you noticed at the time. You couldn't pull.
No, it was just.
You know, you couldn't pull one of these over the top of it, perhaps, or lower this one down.
I mean,
over the top.
it's in my garden, obviously in my garden here at home, but it was just the way the light was playing on the foxglove at the time. I thought, oh, that looks really pretty, so I just snapped it. So yeah. But yeah, that's all really.
I can't get out of this for a second. Let me just hit the escape key for a minute. Let me come out of this one for a second. Let me just see if I can. Right. Running out of time. Okay, so we're going to run out of time. Let me just.
10 minutes left.
Yeah. Okay. 1 second. I'm just going to have to start sharing my screen again. Sorry about that. I couldn't get out of that one for a second. I'll just quickly go back in. Green. Okay, so this is the next one. So another bee on a plant. This one's slightly different in that we get to see less of the bee, if you like, because he sort of stuck himself right inside that plant. But the bee is still nice and sharp, and the plant really sharp. Out of focus background looks great. Again, complements the subject, really makes the subject stand out. Yeah, the colours, tones. It's just a shame the angle of the bee. I keep being drawn back to the bee, but it's a shame the bee wasn't just in a different position.
Didn't want to see it behind.
Yes, thank you, Ken. Yeah, absolutely. This one's Jason's.
Yeah, he wouldn't stay still.
No, indeed. And I know you.
No, he was buzzing around quite a lot there.
It is a it is a numbers game with this sort of shot, in that you just take so many trying to get the bee in the right position or in focus, or but a good amount of depth of field. But yeah, it's just a difficult shot to take, isn't it? Has that been cropped?
It was cropped slightly, yeah.
Yeah.
So I took it from quite a way back, I think.
Right. Okay. Yeah. No, it's a tricky shot to get. I mean, you've done really well to get the bee sharp. It's just a shame the angle of it. isn't quite doesn't quite show off the beard to its best. But you know, it's yeah, difficult shot to take. Let's try what's happening now. So try and go on to the next one. That can't be the last one, can it? Yeah, it looks like it is. You just go back through. Yep,
7.5 minutes left.
Okay.
Yeah, if that was number 19, Darren, there's 24 images. So yeah, that would make it the last one.
Absolutely. Yep. So we'll start the top 5. So if we don't finish, I will. I'll instantly go into the next meeting, pretty much. So we'll just.
Well, I'll have to send the link out.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. It'll only take a few minutes, but yeah, sure. So 5th place this month is, if I share my screen, it's about to come up now. This one. So a moth on this.
Moth?
Is that a moth? No.
Fly.
Is that a butterfly?
It is a butterfly. Yeah? It's a common blue.
Oh, is it? Okay. Well, there you go. Yeah. You can tell I'm not. But okay.
Almost as good as your plant identification.
Yeah.
It's in the same place. It's in the same place.
Is it?
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Really, I'm just going to zoom in a little bit just so I can see the detail because I'm on a fairly small screen. But look at that.
Now you can see it's a common blue.
Yeah, I can now.
Obvious.
Yeah. I should have zoomed in to start with, shouldn't I? But incredibly sharp, wonderful colour. I mean, look at the detail in there. I mean, that's just incredible, isn't it? But look at the background also. So I know you can't sort of dictate where the thing is going to land, but I'm wondering whether the photographer has positioned themselves in an area where they already can see there's no distractions in the background and then wait for the thing to land. You know, if they're flying around, I'm not sure, but we'll ask. But no distractions, very, very simple composition, in effect. This one piece of plant and then the butterfly. But lots of space around it, complementing colours. It almost looks like a painting, but it looks incredibly engaging. Even though it's a fairly simple composition, your eye is just drawn into that butterfly, and then the plant just acts as a sort of a complementing element in the scene. But that sort of arrow straight composition, I wonder whether the camera's been, tweaked or something, or whether that plant does sort of stand up that straight. But it just gives an incredible lead in to the subject and works really well. This one belongs to
Ian.
Ian, it's got to be Ian.
Ian, yeah, absolutely. Yep.
Well done, Ian.
So that was well, just quickly, I've taken the same place as Brian's. I've taken in, well, I assume St Day Road Cemetery, so it was on the lockdown walk. And they roost in the evening, so if they start to settle. And it was a technique of trying to get nice and parallel, just to give you an idea of the size. So that's a piece of grass.
Oh, that is grass. Right, okay.
And that's 105 macro, but I think it's about f4 or 5.6. So it's trying to get nice and parallel, just to throw the background completely out of focus.
Right, yeah. And your homemade flash diffuser? Or?
No, it's natural light off a tripod.
Natural light.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Blimey, there was enough light to...
Yeah, it was in the evenings, just as they're starting to settle down.
Yeah. And handheld?
No, tripod.
Did you say? Oh, tripod, okay. Yeah. Blimey. That's awesome. Yeah, incredible. And so you can see the orientation matching the vertical subject matter. Works really well. How many minutes are we down to?
3.5.
3. Okay. So, 4th place. And so it's probably worth me just running down the clock with this one, and then we'll do the top 3 in the next session, perhaps, yeah? Otherwise, they're all going to be a bit rushed, if that's okay.
I'll send the link out now.
Yeah, and then we'll run until sort of 9 o'clock, if you're happy with that, everybody. So, okay. Wonderful picture of this young girl in amongst the poppies. Wonderful composition with her head breaking through the horizon line, giving that depth of layering to the image. So foreground, middle ground, and background with the sky gives it almost a 3D feel. The fact also then that some of the flowers are blurring because there's movement in those, and she's pin sharp, adds to that 3D effect. That works wonderfully. The blue against the red, these sort of complementing colours work really well. So she's in the perfect outfit, really, to be sat in the poppies. Whether that was an accident or not, or we'll find out from the photographer. But wonderful expression, sunlight on her face, really well lit. Really happy to be in there. And then that low angle. So the photographer's angle is key here to putting her head above the horizon, to split that horizon. Just playing with that angle a few inches up and down with the camera to put her head above the horizon really works, really adds some separation. And then it's just all about that colour. You can tell the time of year, the springtime with those poppies, just works really well. So this one belongs to Ken. Yeah. Would you like to add anything to that, Ken?
It was we went up there to start with. When I took the 3 poppies, all the fields were yellow, and there was nothing there. 2 weeks later, we went up there, and there was all red. I deliberately went up there because we go up there each year to see the poppies, and that's the second time because she's 2 now. We took her on her first birthday, and it's just a nice. I took loads of pictures of her.
Yeah. So were the blue dungarees an accident then, or planned?
No, just an accident. She had them on.
Yeah, a happy accident, as they say.
That was her cheese smile. When you say cheese, that's what she does.
Yeah. But awesome though. You know that's it sort of brings out her character, doesn't it? You know? Yeah. It's almost a cheeky.
I'm pleased with it, and they were pleased with it anyway. So
looks like a cheeky, playful sort of smile. Oh, I bet that would look awesome on a canvas, sort of blown up on the wall. You know.
Yeah.
I think Tesco's have actually got a deal on with canvases at the minute. Tesco.
He's got a big printer.
Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah. No,
I do it. I do it A3 anyway. So.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll quit it there, if I may, and we'll come back in about 5 minutes. So what's it now? It's now just before 22. So I've gone back to this one that was in 4th place. So 3rd place is this one. We mentioned earlier about punchy colours and a vibrant scene, and I think this is possibly from the same photographer. So we've got lots going on in the composition, but through the use of pools of light, we do have a suggested lead through this image. And my eye is sort of drawn up through, right up through here. And that does help to sort of bring your eye in and through to the back of the image. It certainly says spring with those colourful flowers that are there. But it would, we've got a good use of depth of field, and we've got a lot going on. But because of the way it's lit, because we have these areas of light, and particularly here, your eye is drawn to the back of the image. So you are drawn all the way through and into this area, which without that, if it was a more flat light and more evenly lit, your eye wouldn't be drawn back there and it could look quite flat.
Yeah, but I think as a woodland images are very difficult to shoot, and I think that without the light, they are nothing anyway.
No, absolutely. No, you're right, and so you need something to help to elevate the image and to bring the viewer in. And so if you don't have an obvious path, then creating this sort of path with light is the way of providing that lead into the image.
A lot of photographers I follow on Twitter that call themselves woodland photographers. They crave the mist. because it gives them that
Yes.
separation.
It does. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. There's a particular guy on YouTube that I watch, and I chat with quite a lot online from Australia, who thrives on that. He does a lot of woodland photography, and they do get a lot of mist over there, and he always wants the fog to come through because it really brings the image to life and gives him some separation. Yeah, and it can look really flat. The other thing I like about this one is that we've got a bit of framing going on here as well, and here to sort of try and contain your eye a little, even with this color a little bit. So you can almost see that it's going in like this, which helps to bring your eye through here.
Well, I see that, but to me, the ferns are the foreground. I think they're like the third of the shot, and then you lead your eye through to the light.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, indeed. There is another. Yeah, absolutely. You've almost got a third here, haven't you?
Yeah.
Which provides your foreground interest.
Which makes the shot really. I think if it didn't have that.
Yeah, absolutely. You've got to somehow find that way of layering it to give you some depth. Otherwise, it just looks flat and it looks boring, and it can look chaotic, and then your eye doesn't really land anywhere. So I think that works really well.
I think it's a lovely shot.
And this one belongs to John Marshall. So yeah, excellent that one. Right, so the next one in second place is that one, which I think is possibly a goldfinch.
Hey!
Okay, bargain. Must be right then, perhaps. Okay. Well, they're quite distinctive, aren't they, because of the red face?
What plant is it? Magnolia,
sorry?
I think it's a magnolia plant as well.
Oh, magnolia. Okay, yeah, I
think
wouldn't
so.
have got that.
I'm not certain.
Yeah, but that plant that it's sitting on complements the colour of the bird wonderfully, doesn't it? Because if you had a bright colour down here, it would detract from the face. And the fact that the plumage and these colours are all fairly soft pastel-y colours really makes the face stand out. I mentioned with a couple of earlier shots that you really want the space in front of the bird, and we've got that here. There's more space here than behind, so the bird's looking into the scene, which I think really works compositionally. That also helps because the lead in goes the same way. So you're almost coming in, looking at the bird and going around. Your eye is just going around in a circle like this, which compositionally works really well.
This one for me almost fell into it's a bird on a twig. How's that spring? But then it dawned on me with the buds.
Yeah,
that it's totally on theme. At first, because I was drawn to the bird, I was like, well, how's that on theme? But it totally is on theme. It's a cracking shot. But
and they are a spring bird, aren't they?
Well, you get goldfinches all year round.
Yeah, but this is the time when they're sort of at their most active, isn't it?
No.
I guess maybe not. I know they build their nest later. They breed later than most birds, don't they? They tend to breed later towards the summer when the food's most plentiful, I believe. But you know, yeah, I guess I think you hit the nail on the head really, in that it is the buds that, especially this lower one, that's just starting to open up, that it gives you that feeling of spring. Yeah, but a wonderful shot, incredibly good detail, wonderful out of focus, smooth, non-distracting background that also complements the bird quite well. You know, nothing too bright, no sort of highlights that are pulling your eye away, and even the side of the head, even the side of the head that's quite light, and the beak that's quite light, has still got detail in it. Really, really good shot. And this one belongs to Mr. Lawrence. Would you like to add anything to that, James?
Took me 3 days to get it.
Really? Garden shot?
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I
so
just think buds, I mean, the bird is an extra thing. I mean, it was just.
Put your microphone up.
The The bird was just an added thing to make the shot, really. I mean, obviously, the buds is what gives the spring theme, really.
Yeah, yeah. So do you attract them into your garden then somehow?
I feed them, yes. Yeah.
I do. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I did have numerous other shots where a couple of days later the buds did come out a bit more, but this one I thought the composition was better than the other one. So
yeah,
that's why
the framing's really good.
Mm.
So slightly cropped in.
Yeah. I was quite close, but it is still cropped. Yeah.
Yeah. Shoot wider to give yourself a bit more leeway for.
I'm afraid you don't have time to frame it out exactly. So
no, sure,
and it's never long enough lens either. So
no, true, yeah, absolutely. But wonderful cropping, yeah. You know, nice bit of room down here, and yeah, just really, really good. Catch light in the eye, everything's sharp. Yeah, excellent. So that's second place. So your winner this month for the season of spring is that one. So I've said it a few times tonight, I know, and at risk of repeating myself again, taking shots at the peak of the action is absolutely key to getting a dynamic storytelling image, and that is bang at that point. I mean, that adult feeding the juvenile bird is just an incredible interaction between those two. You know, the timing of that shot is absolutely perfect. Just incredible. The you've got to get parallel to the subject, because depth of field is going to be limited. You can only focus on one bird, and so really you need the two coming together parallel to the camera to keep them both in sharp focus. And so positioning is key, and the photographer here has managed to position himself perfectly because both birds are really sharp. If I zoom it in, I mean, the detail is just superb. What will sometimes happen is one bird will go slightly back, and so they'll retract slightly. So quite often the younger bird will pull its head back, in which case the feeding bird, and sometimes it's the male that feeds them, I don't know in this case, will then push its head forward, and the younger bird will go out of focus.
Quite
that
often,
hasn't happened.
I was going to say,
that
quite
hasn't
often
happened.
Birds can look, because their eyes are black, they can almost look a bit dead, but because that bird's looking up to the sky, you've got a bit of light in the eye as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
and then even in the other one, you've got a bit of light reflecting off of the juvenile in the adult, and you've got a bit of light in that eye as well. Just cracking.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm guessing that maybe this is the female because the males are often brighter.
No, that's a male house sparrow on the right.
Oh, is it? Right. Okay.
It's the youngster on the left.
Yeah. But yeah, just an awesome shot. I'm guessing that the element of spring is because that's when the juveniles come out. You know, maybe they're a spring hatching bird. There are no other visual clues because we've got a very shallow depth of field, and we've got no sort of plant indicators, if you like, of spring. But just in terms of timing and technique to get both of those birds sharp, it's just absolutely awesome. And this one belongs to James as well. Well done, James.
Well done, James.
Thank you.
Well done, James.
Would you like to add anything to that?
Thanks to Ian. It was his idea.
Was it?
Well, I didn't think of it as I didn't really dawn on me as a spring thing.
You stuck it on Facebook, didn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So this is another back garden shot, is it?
Yeah.
Have you got a hide in your garden, James?
I've got a toilet tent.
He's got a bonk.
Toilet tent. I don't know what you. Yeah, I don't know what you were doing when you took the shot. Hey, you know.
He's doing a book. Birds from the Bog.
Yeah. I had 3 months of practice.
I know it can be a long time waiting, but you haven't got to, you know.
You've got enough to move.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't want to scare them off.
No, right.
But yeah, no, it was Ian's. I mean, he was right when he said that, you know, babies are born in the spring, and I didn't sort of dawn on me, and so thanks, Ian.
First place.
I need to start feeding birds in the garden, I tell you. Yeah.
Just want to make a point. I don't know if anyone's picked up on this, but I think that's 3 months in a row James has got first and second. I don't know if anyone's ever achieved that, but I think it just shows that, you know, and I know not everyone has access to gardens and stuff like that, but I'm pretty sure James has done his shots during lockdown as well, which just shows, you know, if you do apply yourself, you can do it.
Yeah,
Can be done.
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. So I think the next shot is them all on the wall.
The virtual wall.
Yeah, thanks for doing that, Ian. And they're all in the right order as well.
Yeah, just for Jason.
Yeah. Yeah. So the fact that we can't be at the Institute, that gives us a piece of the Institute virtually, doesn't it? Yeah.
Going back to being at the Institute, Darren, I don't know if you know, it came up a bit on the Facebook page. Brian brought it up about certain groups being allowed back.
Yeah, I don't think that applies to us yet.
It doesn't. We've looked into it, and there's sort of conflicting advice from different bodies, but the basically, unless you're an essential service, I think we remain shut for the minute.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, absolutely. And to be honest with you, it is something that I look at every single day. We have to be on top of the guidance in the workplace. So I have been watching it closely, but yeah, I'm sure that come maybe September, I think it's possibly the earliest. We have to see what happens with the schools. The schools, I think, are the priority at the minute.
We've had a survey sent out from the schools wanting to know what we want to do with the kids.
Yeah, well, some schools are foregoing the summer holiday and they're going back on the 11th of August. They're trying to get a head start. Any predicted second spike is predicted for the winter. Hopefully that doesn't happen. And if we can get through to September without a spike, then I think it's possible that we might be able to start back. But you know, we'll see. We just have to keep an eye on it. We have to do it in a safe way. And what's slightly confusing at the minute is the 1 meter plus rule, the 1 meter plus mitigations, which is so woolly it's untrue. But you know, I'm sure we'll get there. And until then, I will obviously look at trying to get a subscription to Zoom so we don't have all these links being sent out all the time. I'll try and look at that this week. If I set it up on my account, James, we can work out the money another time, can't we?
Yeah, I can sort whatever out. Yeah.
You know, I don't know that we can set up a direct debit on the club account, can we?
No, well, to be honest with you, I must admit I have let it lapse, and not in the sense of that, but I haven't done anything about like online banking or anything.
No, sure. And I don't want to put you on the spot now. I am, just so that the members are aware, I have got a printout of a whole raft of emails that have been going back and forth, of which yours is included in there, Jason, from a little while ago. I haven't forgotten about that. And I am compiling, when I get time, a whole list of things for a committee meeting, Zoom meeting agenda. I'll hopefully push that out in the next week or so. I have got a lot of things to go through to produce that. And we'll look at all those issues, electronic payments, how we can do things. But you know, for the minute, if the members are happy with the way we're doing it on Zoom, we'll continue with this on a Wednesday evening. We have.
Do we get this in a? Can you send that in an email, Ian?
What's that?
That picture.
What picture?
The top five.
Yeah, I have done every month.
Oh, have you? Oh,
yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So the virtual wall, you mean, Ken?
But
Yeah.
I'll make sure you get it. Don't worry.
Thank you.
Yeah, and so next week I think is I need to refer to my notes. I've misplaced them for a second. I think it's lockdown images next week, isn't it?
While you're looking for that, then, so the next competition will be looking down. So you can start sending your submissions in.
Or taking them.
Or taking them, yeah.
Yeah. So next week, the 1st of July, next Wednesday, is lockdown images. So 2 pictures sent in to Ian on the email. We'll put them all together. We'll perhaps chat in the week or so, Ian, within the week, about maybe doing it on Tuesday if we can at some point.
What the image? You need the images by Tuesday.
Getting the images into a Dropbox or something.
Yeah. Okay.
And then I'll download them perhaps next Tuesday evening, get them on the computer ready for Wednesday.
Okay. So if I say by Tuesday lunchtime or something like
that. If you've got time, if you can. If not, we'll have to do it on Wednesday. But yeah, and then we'll critique those in a similar fashion to tonight, next Wednesday evening, if you're happy with that. And again, I'll hopefully by then we'll have a subscription to Zoom or yeah, I'll try and sort that out this weekend. Okay. So we'll go for that, and again, as a part of that agenda, we'll put together a more focused program for the next few months. But I'll try and do that agenda as soon as I can. Okay, so that's everything I think for tonight. Thank you all for attending. Wonderful set of images. Congratulations to those in the top 5. I imagine we'll let John Marshall know. He'll get to know via Facebook, I guess, or he'll see, if he sees the wall, he'll be able to pick out his image. I think John's the only one that wasn't here tonight, was in the top 5. And I'll catch up with you all next week.